Hey everybody, welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It is of course December 14th, 2019. This would be... Hey everybody, welcome Oh, I'm not muted on my stream. Of course I'm not. Episode 133. We've been going on, but this is going to be our PAX Unplugged special. I looked through the news for the past couple of weeks, and there's a few things we could talk about, but nothing super major. Apparently right around that big sale time of Black Friday, not a lot of people are talking about things. Good for us.
Good news, everybody.
So, I thought what we could how we could do this here is we could kind of hit down the list of places that we stopped and see what we want to talk about them for each of them, and see how far we can get at that point in time. And if we have to kind of push things around for doing a little bit more on another week or something, we can, or like another show. But so yes, if you were unaware, Joe and I last weekend, for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, headed to PAX Unplugged. We did a lot of checking in with people, talked to a lot of folks, got a lot of contact information, learned about a lot of the games that are coming up from a lot of these companies and a lot of the interesting things that are out there. So let's start with our first meeting. We met with the Move 38 people, and they had Blinks. So Blinks was interesting as it was a smart tabletop game. It's modular. It's 12 games sold in 2 6-packs. There's like a base one and expansion, and each of the tiles has a game on it and teaches the other tiles its games.
You had to start. You have to start from the tile that has the game you want to play from it. That has to be the starting tile.
Yes,
and the rest of them will pick up that game.
Yes. So it was really interesting. They showed off a couple of games, like a shuffleboard type game. There's apparently was an asteroid mining game, a rearranging game with colors that you're supposed to like get one of your tiles to be adjacent to 2 tiles that are each different colors from the tile it was, and then it's happy, and I guess the object is to get the most happy tiles in a certain amount of time. They also mentioned that it's open source. So they're little hexagons, right? Hexagons?
Yeah.
And effectively, you play different games with the hexagons. Each one has its different rules. They have hexagons have LEDs in it that show colors in patterns and stuff like that, so that you can recognize what different things are. Pretty kind of simple things there. The open source part is people can program their own games. It uses a watch battery, so it makes it easy to change out. It has a simple carrying case. That's really neat. Yeah. They're putting it out this upcoming year. It's been 3 to 4 years in development. They did a Kickstarter where they got 300%, and because of the technical issues, they did delay it a bunch just to make sure everything could be finished up.
Right. Now, they did mention they had a contest originally with people developing some of the games. So some of the games that actually comes with it aren't ones they personally developed.
Yeah. They were very heavy on the tech side, with a few of the games being developed by some of the people that are in their in-game house. So it's an interesting piece of technology.
Yeah, I think it was, 6 games for the base, and then you got another 6 if you did the deluxe or something?
Yes.
Because you have 3 juices plus...
Stream these.
And he said... Good.
I like my drinks. Apparently that was the problem.
He likes cold beverage, yeah.
Look at it!
I mean, 2 of them were on the door, and so 1 was floating around. So I don't know.
Look at
Gotcha.
She gave me like an inflatable ball or something that's deflated.
Ah.
I'm on
Anyway.
stream, so here, take this. Okay, get going.
I'll pull it up for
Yeah, bye.
And then bring it up.
So Blinks is a very interesting system. It's a different type of board game, but I've heard of kind of modular board games like that. This one is, though, it's a smart one. It's electronic. It's based upon programming and stuff too, so it uses a lot less materials, and it's very simple for kind of each one's programmed into the rules, and it makes it that since like it's got the LEDs and stuff. You could probably, I think we were saying that you could probably get into things with different kind of screens on them eventually to like get more advanced. Yeah. It's a
I was asking him, could you actually have pictures show up and stuff like that? He's like, if we change the screens, eventually you could get something like that. Right now, they also run off a watch battery.
Yeah, which, I mean, like, there could be eventually, like, the thing is, if we look down the lane, road for the technology as it is right now, this could develop into things with, like, better screens, rechargeable, things like that make it that it's more advanced. But what we have now is a step in the right direction for an interesting version of a digital but analog tabletop game. I think that's a great way of saying it.
Yes. No, it's really interesting, and there's a bunch of cool games for it.
Yeah, definitely stuff to look forward to. So, yep. The next folks we talked to is we headed over to Crafty, who we've had on the show before. We talked about they got like 2 updates to Mistborn coming out. They've got their House War board game. Kind of some expansions. God. They've got a lot of stuff in the works. Stormhallow RPG, kind of an RPG board game hybrid they're working on. Some metal dice that are going to be up in Kickstarter. So they're dice for their own games, so if you're looking for those. Yeah. Yeah,
they were very nice quality dice.
And they got a lot of stuff in progress. They got the Dollar Donuts Kickstarter that's going to be at the end of the next quarter.
Dollars for Donuts.
Dollars for Donuts. Yeah. My notes are mostly good. They're better than they were last year.
Well, it's a phrase, dollars for donuts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they were showing off definitely a lot of interesting things. They're expanding upon a lot of the stuff they've been working on. Thank you for this ball. That's partially inflated.
You can blow it out the rest of the way.
No, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You have permission.
Yes,
I have permission.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're definitely going to have them on again. We were talking with them about it. The people from Crafty have always been nice friends to the channel, and we're going to be happy when we get them on. That'll be a little farther into next year. So, maybe around March, we were talking about having them on again. And they can get into a lot more detail about all these things that they have coming up. So
yes.
But they got a lot that they're working on. So we did stop by Modifius.
And had an awesome conversation.
Yes. Now, granted, like I was mentioning, I thought he had Space 1889, and I think they only publish it; they don't produce it, which is a difference. And that's the thing that sometimes is hard to notice because Modifius publishes. Because I did learn when we talked about Vampire 5th Ed and the Fall of London, is that they were originally the publisher of it. They were publishing the material, and now they're producer when there was all that problems with the one book that was coming out having some very, I can't remember the exact details, but it was like very
some of the themes were a little
controversial. They could have been handled in a better way, the same themes, and they didn't handle them in a very good way.
Yes.
So of course their big thing they were showing off was Fallout, which they have their current RPG for Fallout, which is an expansion on their Wasteland Warfare's miniatures game, which is a lot like 4th edition was. It was 4th edition kind of felt very miniatures, board gamey a lot of the time, just from the setup and stuff. It really required it a lot more than you could do Theater of the Mind, but it was kind of hard to because everything was number based. They are going to have a more traditional true 2D20 experience the end of next year. That's when the full Fallout game is going to be coming out. They did also note that they are going... Oh, the tricorder thing.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, the tricorder that they were coming out with for Star Trek.
Yes.
It's like a kind of carrying case and roller and stuff.
But it actually does do stuff too.
Yeah.
I think it was a roller, and it was like a bunch of things in one, and it was really an interesting idea. They're doing some great stuff with the Star Trek franchise, I think.
Oh yeah, no.
And we did get confirmation. Yes, the reason they came out with beta ahead of alpha was more enemies.
And they're planning on Gamma Quadrant next. And what they said was I think the most interesting, and it actually made the most sense. Is it was also because it was kind of timeline.
Series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think about original series was based very around dealing with Klingons and the Beta Quadrant. A next gen had a lot more Alpha Quadrant stuff. And then we have Gamma Quadrant for DS9, and finally Delta Quadrant for Voyager.
Woohoo! We could all fight some Kazon.
Sure, Kazon.
We can knock the rock out of their hair.
It says that they I'm not going there. We did learn that they have more books for their Homeworld series. Conan is getting some more stuff. We haven't talked about a Conan book in a while. I mean, granted, we have said some funny things about the Conan books because they're interesting, but they have funny names, and Conan has way too many jobs.
Well, he gets around.
He gets around. And the Dune RPG that they're working on.
Right.
We'll have to see some more coming up in the next year about that.
But we also should have someone on the show later this year with them too.
Yes, we got to send them an email. So then we talked to Cosmos. They're another one that I don't think we had on, but we've talked to them before. We talked about having them on the upcoming first quarter. They showed off their adventure games, which were kind of like escape games, which they had their exit games, which were escape games. But this one...
They had the exit games, which are a one-time escape game because you have to actually tear up things, so they're not redoable. But then they have the adventure games that have replayability.
Yeah, where there's some options that happen at various points in time. So I thought that was a very interesting one because it ends up, as I said, they're trying to get a bit more of a point-and-click kind of thing with that one.
Right, and I think also having the replayability is going to help it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I know going into a game it's probably a one-time thing, I may not buy it.
Yeah.
To be truthful, because it's like, okay, I could spend $20 and have a game that I'm pretty much going to throw out when I'm done.
Yeah.
Or I can spend $20 and get something that I can play for years, and have fun with. Now, yeah, that one-time experience might be really cool, but it's how much you want to use your disposable income to be really disposable.
Yeah, definitely. Now, they did also show off their City Skylines board game. It's based on the video game, kind of SimCity-ish. It's tile laying when you try to get a poppy population. It was an interesting looking board game. I guess if you're a fan of SimCity, City Skylines itself, this might be a board game for you to try out and to see how it relates to that entire setup.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some playthroughs of City Skylines. It's an interesting game.
So it's definitely interesting to see how it translates to a board game.
Yeah.
So that was Cosmos. They're a good company. Glad to talk to them. We ran into the people from Almost a Game. If you don't remember, here on the channel, I did have an interview with just me where things went badly because of some technical issues, unfortunately. But it was still a good conversation with them. Their second game, Space Chase, is out. It is available. Of course, Wicked Apples is the main one we talk about. They are thinking of a third game that they're going to be discussing more and maybe getting out by the end of next year or into early 2021. They do very small print runs of stuff, so they don't make more unless they got to that point in time where they're kind of selling it out. But so we'll learn more about them. We're going to kind of communicate with them in late spring, early summer, and they might have some information. And when they're on the show again, they can talk to us about their third game.
Yes.
Of course, we did stop by Brotherwise, the people that do Boss Monster. Again, another people that have been on the show, great people to talk to. They have a new expansion for, is that Unearthed? God.
Unearthed, I think.
They have a Call to Adventure expansion by Patrick Rothfuss. They had him actually, I think, doing a version of the game. Patrick Rothfuss, if you don't know the name of him, he does a bunch of stuff. I can't always remember the bunch of stuff he does. He's one of the people that's on Acquisitions Incorporated. That's the only thing I remember. Does he do a webcomic too, I think? He does a lot of writing.
I'm not sure.
Does a lot of writing, though. I know that for sure, because he shows up in a bunch of stuff, too. So they were doing a live play of the game and sign up and things like that at the show. And then, so that was the Call to Adventure, that current expansion of his. That's the one I'm supposed to be talking about, the Call to Adventure expansion. That's the new one. And I'm not remembering the exact name. God.
Give me a second.
Yeah, please Google it. They are coming out with Stormlight. That's the next Call to Adventure expansion, which is based on another famous writer. And they do have some other Boss Monster stuff in the work, like a mini expansion. And they have a few other things that they weren't going to be talking about yet, but, they were kind of hitting into that they were going to be talking about it in the future. So it's something that for us to keep an eye out over.
Unearth. Yeah, it's Unearth. Unearth.
Okay, so it was Unearth.
Yep.
I had it right. I'm just not, thinking it sounds unusual in my brain for stupid reasons.
Yeah, reclaim, rebuild, remember. You can help your tribe delvers recover the ruins of lost civilization. Unearth is a bend your luck game of dice placement and set collection.
Well, then maybe that's the one that they have. That's the new expansion for that coming out, and the Call to Adventure has its own name.
Call to Adventure is Call to Adventure.
Something in the Wind.
Yeah, it was Something in the Wind was the new one.
Yes.
Oh, here it is. Hold on. Name of the Wind.
Name of the Wind. Man, I'm almost perfect in writing this down very quickly. At least gives me an idea where to look if I'm confused.
Yeah. I just ran to Brotherwise site and I'm like, Call to Adventure, the Name of the Wind. There it is.
Yeah. So yeah, Brotherwise, very nice. We'll hopefully be seeing them again on the show in the middle of the year. Talk about that.
And the new one for Unearth is The Lost Tribe.
Yes. We talked to WizKids then. We managed to stop by and discuss things with them. They talked about Flotilla. We got someone on that was talking about a lot of their stuff and a lot of their new stuff. Flotilla's their post-apocalyptic floating junk game. We might have mentioned it on the show. I wasn't 100% sure if we did or not. But
we may have. I'm not 100% sure either. But Flotilla did look interesting.
Sidriel Confluence Remastered. I've heard the Sidriel Confluence game, but I've never played it myself, but there's a remastered version of it. We did talk with her about Stampede a little bit more, getting deeper into that. And Etten was the one game that actually I saw that there was an announcement about it out recently, so she did manage... Well, at the con, they might have already announced it. They were showing off some of their basics, which is God, it's there's allies, and it's kind of interesting. It's like two-sided, and that there's drafts on each team, and in certain situations, a team might have someone that's on the other side on their team. Technically, it's kind of interesting. It's a hard game to describe without having a little bit more of it in front of us. Let me see.
Right. We also talked about Coraline.
We did talk about a little bit about Coraline.
And the reason they're coming out with it now is it's its 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like little anniversaries like that you kind of can miss, which makes a difference why something's coming out.
They also said that it was in development for a while, but the people who have the rights to Coraline were very invested in making sure that the game came out the way they wanted it to, and stayed true to the original movie.
Yes.
And I think it was also a book.
It was originally like a book. Yes.
Yeah,
they did.
So that's also what took so long. But then they figured, okay, this is actually perfect since it's now the
anniversary. Yeah.
Anniversary.
Yeah. So talked a lot about all the various different games that they got upcoming. It was nice to talk to them. We can maybe hit up in January, hit up WizKids and see about if they'd be interested in having someone on, which would be great. So we got some information from them too. They talked about a lot of cool games. Yeah, like Etten's an interesting one because it's like it's up to 8 nations and players make pairs of allies, like a two-headed Etten, basically, sharing units and strategies and facing enemies on either side. You're not kind of alone, but I think there's more tricks to it because there's also like a drafting kind of thing where you're drafting like armies, so it's a very interesting experience. It'll be something that maybe we'll talk about when it comes out again. Let's see here. We did stop by Paizo. We didn't get a lot of information about what's new coming from them. They're just
their main booth was just playtesting 2A.
So we managed to talk to them about a couple of things, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, they partnered with another booth for selling any Pathfinder products. I think it was Cool Stuff Inc. But they weren't selling anything at the booth. They were just doing play tests.
Yeah. And now we stopped by Japanime Games. Unfortunately, we were unable to set anything up with them. There was a person that we tried emailing. Apparently there's some things going on. That's why I haven't heard anything from them from my communications from before, because the person I had been talking to is no longer in the company, which is a problem. Right. So everything's being reorganized. They lost someone. But the person Heather I talked to, so I might email her again and say that I didn't hear from Eric when I tried messaging him. But we then stopped by Onyx Path. They were showing off. They came from Beneath the Sea. Cults of the Blood Gods. There's apparently in development for a streaming service, a show based on something that they've been working on.
Oh yeah, I think was it a cartoon or was it an actual show?
I don't know which it was, but it was something based on one of their RPGs that they've been working on.
Yeah, I remember her talking about that.
Well, we went over a lot of stuff that they have, like books and stuff for them. So the Onyx Pact meeting was a pretty simple meeting in comparison to some of our other ones. But it was interesting to kind of see a little bit of what they were showing off there and what they've been working on.
Yeah, I mean, they came from Beneath the Sea is right up your alley because it's 1950s sci-fi.
Yes. It was interesting. I do like a good 1950s sci-fi, like a little bit of weirdness.
Yeah, I know you do. There's some good camp.
The best camp. Now we did try to stop by Onyx Path, not Onyx Path. Steve Jackson Games.
Yes, they did not have any. They were basically seeing people only by appointment.
Yeah, it was unfortunate that the attempts to speak with them went poorly. I don't know if necessarily poorly is the exact word I would use for it, but they were certainly not easy to speak to. As much as I would have liked to have tried to got a discussion with them. Apparently, you needed to be part of their entire setup. Sorry, I'm just trying to quickly see if I got I was thinking there was something else that Onyx Path was talking about. I can't remember, but I was trying to see if I have got a picture of
it's
their
just
booth.
on their site.
Well, there was a... okay, that's Free League Publishing. I have to remember it's that one. We talk about them. Well, I don't know. I can't find it. But, yeah, apparently we have to get into their entire setup with their press group because they don't check in with the press group for English. PAX.
Right, yeah. So we're going to have to try to get a hold of them through the year and see if we can set up a meeting maybe next year.
Yeah. Yep.
But we did notice that they did not have anything at the booth related to the Munchkin CCG.
No, the thing is, I think it's dead. I think it's dead.
Yeah.
We haven't seen stuff on it. I think it's just dead and it's gone. And we don't know anything about it. So... we then stopped by... Now I'm slamming something. Because I can hear something somewhere else. We stopped by Amigo. Amigo was great. The thing is, it's Germany's third largest company, but it's only been here in the U.S. for 2 years.
Yeah, they only opened their branch in the U.S. 2 years ago.
So they were showing off a lot of stuff because they have 2 types of games. They have much more of the strategy games, which we did get to see a few of their strategy games there, and then they also had like Saboteur. They had the Saboteur line, if you're familiar with that, which is all about one person being a saboteur, kind of sabotaging everybody else. And then they have their and then Carnival of Monsters, which was a board game that's helped developed by Richard Garfield. It's all about being like very Victorian British guy, kind of collecting monsters for society kind of thing. Both are very interesting. Saboteur is one that I'm pretty sure I've seen before, but I've never tried it or played it. So it was interesting to see and learn more about it. It's much more of a classic game series, and they have a board game version of it now rather than the card games, which is the classic. And the Carnival of Monsters looks very cool. Those are their heavy strategy games. But then they had a lot of family fun games, which were their 5 rules games.
Oh yeah, like Mission Codec or Mission X Code.
Yeah, Take 5. Take 5 is the one that we didn't test because we know that one. We did try playing it the other week a little bit.
No thanks.
Yep. We got to actually test out a bunch of these small games, which was very interesting.
Llama
was fun.
Yep.
Codex was all about us working together as a team. You have 3 minutes. There are ways of extending your time, but you're basically trying to get a code. There's 10 levels. The base level is 3 of a kind on a telephone dial. So it's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Star and pound.
Yeah. Llama was a simple one where you can go up from 1 to 6, and then a llama, and llama goes back to 1.
Yes.
And you either play the same number or the next number up. And if it's
go ahead.
And if it's your turn, you either have to play a card, if you can, draw a card, or end your round. And
yeah, I screwed up my first. I had a chance to play a second llama, and I didn't. I played a 1, and llamas are worth the most points, and I got that stuck in my hand.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is, like, it's not great to draw a card either usually, and if you're the last one in, I think it just ends anyway. It's that, it's if you go down to one person, so you can't play on your own, that you keep drawing cards until you can get rid of your hand. No, it's like, so you have to judge of when you play and when you just take the points you have in your hand.
Yeah, I wish we would have had a chance to actually check out Carnival of Monsters a little more, because that looked really interesting.
It looked very cool. It looked like it would have been interesting to test out, but it would have been a much longer game.
Oh yeah.
The heck?
Like 45 minutes.
Yeah, the what the heck was interesting. You bet on points from negative points to positive points.
Right, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and you had like 1 to 15. No, we had I think we had less players, so we had less cards in our hand. We had like numbers from something to 15 or something in our hand, and the object was that, like, if it's a positive number, the highest takes the card. If it's a negative number, the lowest takes the card. So that's why you have to be careful. High numbers are always good, and I managed. I think I got that one and Llama. I did pretty good on both of those, because the Llama one I went out early, and the two of you played in for a little while, and that kind of screwed you. I took the points I had because I got rid of like my high end stuff, so I only had like a couple little. And I'm like, I didn't draw at all. I just gambled on that, and it paid off for me, but it might not have. The what the heck? I think I saved my high point cards till the end, and because like I won like the 10-point thing.
You saved your 15-point card. That's what it was.
Yeah, I waited for that.
Because you saw that we had both spent ours, and you're like, "Ooh, I can keep this for a really opportune moment."
Yes, because if people play the same card, they cancel out. So you have to be careful about playing the same card, and also like it's that gambling of when you want to play cards to win stuff. Like sometimes you want to win points, other times you don't. You want to take negatives. It's a very interesting one. Yeah. So those were a lot of cool games we tried out. The 5-rule ones were very fun, family friendly, very nice. And they're playing 6 titles for next year. And hopefully we can contact them in the spring and maybe in the fall.
Yeah.
So we stopped by Golden Bell Studios. Their big thing is the Web of Spies and a number of licenses they're working on. There's people that we've had on the show here before. So we can talk to them in January, February about what they're kind of doing. So that's kind of where they're at. We stopped by Hero Tales of the Tomes. That's another people that have been on the show here. They got a new expansion. They're working on a second, I think it's a second product line. That's early 2020s. They're thinking about some more stuff, but they're working on things, and they're another person that we could probably have at the show sometime. We stopped by Soaring Rhino. We got to talk to them again.
Had a nice conversation with them. They have come out with a expansion of Shifting Realms.
Yes.
Or no, they're coming. Has it actually hit?
It's coming out soon. They're working on it.
Coming out soon, yeah. That one had 3 more.
Two more.
Two more. Sorry,
yeah.
There's going to be 2 more expansions, each having 2. They already had the other races developed, but they're more complex, and they decided they wanted to hold off on adding the complexity.
Like one can create walls and stuff, and the other one can do like sacrifices of units. So these are very much more complex mechanics than they've had in previous groups. So adding them in adds a level of complexity.
Yeah, and then we also play tested and got a copy of
Pirate Tricks.
Pirate Tricks, which is actually a really fun, simple game.
Mm-hmm.
It's along the lines of like your basic Hearts game or something. You're doing tricks, but there's different goals each round.
Yeah, so there are 4 goals. There's like these 2. So the rounds go like this. You build your hand. You put out the goals. There's these 2 goals that score early, and 2 goals that score after the tricks. The 2 goals that score early score off your hand. So the way you get your hand is you get 5 cards in hand, and everybody gets that. And then there are 5 cards and 2 hidden cards in the number of piles equal to players out in front of everybody. So
and then everyone bids on what hands they want.
Yeah. So you go like down the line, and one of them has the starting player, and you kind of like bid for each of them, and then you discard 2 of those cards to a hand of 10. So that way you're going to have 7 secret cards, 5 cards that everybody will know about. Reds win the tricks, and then you have to play higher numbers win tricks, and if you can't play a color, because there's 3 colors, you can throw anything out there. Of course, a red would automatically win if you're forced to do that. Like, I don't have blue, because it's blue, green, red. I could play red and just steal the hand and win the trick.
Right. Sometimes that's bad because sometimes you don't want tricks.
Because it sometimes says, like, however many of a certain thing you win might give you points, but it also might deduct points. Sometimes winning tricks is good, sometimes not winning tricks is good. So it all comes down to those other two goals to determine how you're going to play out the hand. And you do that for 3 times and see who gets the most money at the end.
But because of the different goals and rewards and stuff, it's a different game each time.
Yep. They also talked to us a little bit about Massive Core, their free print-and-play game that encourages people to design their own art and make their own things within the community. It's a developing game. So it's very interesting. Massive Core.
And hopefully we'll get them on this year.
Yes. So we talked to Flying Nightbear. They are the people that do Beyonder. They have a little kind of starter adventure for Beyonder. We've had them on the show. They have their own Patreon now, so if you had gotten into it because of what we kind of talked to previously with them, I would recommend, checking it out. Their next big book is going to be a little later on this year. They're figuring out like a couple big releases this year. But Beyonder is the big RPG. Very nice people, kind of family run. Glad to talk to them again and learn. And the starter set that they're doing, that's awesome. Starter sets.
Oh yeah, that's always a big thing to get into a new role-playing system. If you can do a starter set, it really makes it easy for people to kind of slide into it and decide, hey, I really like this. Now I'm going to go buy the base books.
Yep. We talked to, of course, Tabletop Tycoon. Those are the people that also have Starling Games under them. I think they have a couple of different publishing labels, but they're like a mid-company, I'd call them.
Right.
But, they've got, like, the War of Whispers was the game that they were showing off a bunch of. The new expansion from Everdell, which she was nice enough to give us a copy of that one. We talked about maybe getting a copy of War of the Whispers from her, but things didn't work out for that. So,
we might still get one in the future, but that looked really interesting because it's a
hour-long grand strategy.
Yeah. Which that's awesome. You don't see a lot of those strategy games like that are that short. And I love playing Risk. I would love to play Twilight Imperium, but you're putting a lot of time aside to do those.
So
with this, you can get in an hour you can still get that taste of that game and have a lot of fun.
Yep. So that was very cool. And the Everdell expansion is very interesting. It adds a couple new resources, adds like these little frogs. It's like a river basin. They are actually working on another expansion, or another 2 expansions for Everdell. Because one's put on one side, I'm going to assume the other one can go on the other side, and I don't know about the fourth one. It kind of expanding the board kind of thing. Seems kind of neat. So Everdell was one that we liked a lot when we played it. So definitely we'll play test the expansion and let folks know about it here on the show. Also, we stopped by Nomnivore Games. They have updated everything on Emberwind by a lot. They've added a lot of system. They were made that you do not need a GM. They have updated those systems insanely. The amount of systems...
they had so much information.
We're going to have them on again to go over everything that's changed over this. But it's like an online database. They have a new campaign, which is parallel to their first campaign. And their first campaign, they are working on the next book in that line. So it's interesting that the 2 campaigns can be played against each other. So you could actually have 2 groups running it and have the choices they make affect each other, which is also kind of cool. And they have like a nemesis system for enemies in the game, so that they upgrade in order to fight against your players. Oh my god!
Yeah, it basically learns how your players fight to eventually get to the point where you can't win against them easily.
And this is all in not an electronic system. This is all in a pen and paper tabletop system that they can develop this. It's just kind of crazy. They have a lot better on their character creation side. That's very awesome. With a lot more options. So you can look into their character creation. God. Yeah. They have a lot of other things that they were talking about. Definitely.
Yeah, this is one we have to really revisit when they're
available
on the show.
Yeah, we can talk to them in January.
There's so much information to go over.
Yes. Then we managed to stop by Foreteller. So, yep. Foreteller were a very interesting group. They were working with Cephalar, but we were mainly speaking to them at the time. Just because they were the ones that we ended up speaking to. So Foreteller, they are if you have a board game that has a lot of like, I thought of the example of something like Betrayal at House of the Hill. It's got its own little like intros and like little bits of information you read out about each little adventure you're doing. There are other games like that out there. What they're doing is setting up, not only is it like narration with voice actors, like actual people that can do that, but it's background music and sound effects to go along with these setups. To make them feel like, you know, if the storyline I'm doing is on a ship, there might be the creaking of a ship with like a little shanty in the background as the people are like narrating what's going on and setting up the adventure. It's supposed to be a database closer to Steam that is going to have all these for different games. And Gloomhaven's the first one that they really have in full here, and they're trying to make deals with other companies to have similar games to that, where they have these big narration focuses to set up these things for them, which is really kind of cool. Because, like, I think this is you can get the apps, but the apps just sort of help lead you along for some of these games. They're never really this, like, level of in-depthness.
Well, some of them do have, like, some minor narration and stuff.
Yeah.
But they're saying even trying to condense games that have that into theirs. Mm-hmm. Like, they're trying to negotiate that, too, so it's all in one place. You're not getting a separate app for every single thing. And we did ask them about, you know, possibly going into the RPG realm, and they said once they're settled in board games, that is on their radar as well.
Yeah.
Which that would be awesome to be able to have like professional background music and stuff and sound effects that are easy to find in one database to have playing to enhance the role playing games.
Yeah. No, it was good to hear about them. They're planning out the Gloomhaven stuff's coming out live 2020 in January, and they've got deals working up through 2021, 2022 that they're going to be putting out stuff, so they're building it as they go.
Yeah, on their site they also have some information about another game called the Iceferian Guard.
Mm-hmm.
So they at least have two games they're working with right now.
Yes.
But Gloomhaven's the first big one.
Yeah. Well, there's Gloomhaven 2, which might be the Iceferian Guard. I don't know which... that might be a different one, whatever Gloomhaven 2 is. I can't remember the name of it, but that was why they had, like, the little horn things, because that's the Gloomhaven sequel.
Right.
That everybody had. It's like the Frosthaven or something now.
That's right. I think it's Frosthaven, yeah.
Okay. We managed to speak with Looney Labs. That was a good one. We learned about this.
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of fun. We talked to the owner.
His last name is like Looney. I mean, he's named after him.
His last name is actually Looney.
Yeah. So we learned that what they're coming out with. They've got their Star Trek Chrono Trek. So if you don't know their Chrono Trek series, it's a very interesting kind of card game where you manipulate time. And they're doing a Star Trek one. They've got 3 Fluxes that are kind of out now: Marvel, Jumanji, DS9. We heard about 3 fluxes that are coming. A SpongeBob one, which is they're trying to finish getting the license worked out perfectly with that one. Voyager, which is the last Star Trek one they're going to do. An astronomy flux, which is using actual NASA images, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that really interests me a lot. But the big thing that he seemed really excited about was
Pyramids.
The pyramids. Well, was the smaller games for pyramids.
Yes, they've got their big box for pyramids, which has been out since last year. It's their kind of I've played Ice Dice before, which is one of the individual games, but there's a collection of it, which is, here's a bunch of pyramids in this big box, here's a whole bunch of games to play with it. And they're coming out with Kickstarters for more games that you can use with that. It's little expansions, a new color of pyramids. It was those metal-y ones that were cool looking.
Yeah, and the big thing with that is the pyramid box is a little on the expensive side.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot for it, but he said they did a lot of talking with people, and that's been part of the thing is people are like, it's so expensive, I'm not sure. And so with these starting these smaller ones, I think they were $20 a piece.
Yeah,
they were talking, or no, it was less than that, I think.
But it was for I thought it was for for whatever. Yeah, it'll be up on Kickstarter and you can see then. But the idea was to introduce you to these games and also probably provide you with more pyramids, because some of the games in the big pyramid box could use more pyramids anyway.
Right.
He was showing off Homeworlds, which was a grand strategy game with pyramids, a 2-player one. I was watching them play it, and it was interesting looking. That was really complex.
Yeah,
for something so simple.
Very complex game.
For having crappy little, not to insult the pyramids, but for having little plastic pyramids as your only thing of 3 sizes, that kind of game was crazy.
Yeah, it was very, very complex. I was trying to get my head around it.
Yeah, it's the Chrome pyramids are the new ones that are coming out. So yeah, they've got early January, February for some of their projects. Of course, the Voyager's coming out closer to May, middle of the year. They do have a kind of board game that's in the works, but not anything that they have down pat. So they've got some other stuff that's beyond just fluxes and pyramids in the work, but those are their 2 major brands right now. And I'm glad they continue with the Chrono Trek too. The Star Trek Chrono Trek was kind of cool because they always mess with time anyway.
Yeah.
And the Chrono Trek, I think we played one of them. You have one of them, I think maybe the U.S. one. Yes, I had the U.S. one. Because I know there's also a world history one, and it was very fun to play. Yes. We stopped by Chaosium. They're the people that do God. They do God? My brain just, blew out a little bit of intelligence there for a second. Because I'm trying to think of all the games they... I'm bringing up their site right now. Yeah. Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, Call of Cthulhu, 7th Sea. Yeah, 7th Sea. Rune Quest, and Pendragon. Yeah, Pendragon. Thank you. I was blanking out on Call of Cthulhu. I'm I should know this. I was talking to them. It's the only one that because I wrote starter set Call of Cthulhu rather than Call of Cthulhu starter set, and it got me confused. Of course it did. But no, they were good to talk to. We learned about some of their RPGs that they're working on, the Pendragon stuff, the 7th Sea, they've got a starter. They're doing more starters like they did with Call of Cthulhu for their other brands too. They got some... Oh, and Hero Quest. And they got some adventures coming out, some single adventures and larger adventures. They have a bestiary coming out for Call of Cthulhu, which I thought was very interesting. Yes. That's a game that kind of requires it for your crazy, nightmare-inducing, etc. monsters. So yeah, they've got a lot coming out, and that was cool to talk to them. We stopped by Good Man Games. They're the Dungeon Crawl Classics people.
Right. They have a lot of stuff coming out.
Oh yeah, they do
They
a lot.
always do, though.
They got a bunch of adventures for Dungeon Crawl Classics. Things like a Dying Earth on the schedule, which is like it's based on a novel. Three more of their OAR books. Dungeon Crawl Classics, like their big box hardcover, more of that. They're doing a lot. Also, so Good Man Games is doing a big bunch of stuff. We stopped by Pellegrin Press. They're the 13th Age people, which, God, I got it. Sometimes my brain doesn't always work. Yeah, the 13th Age people. What else? Anything else off the top of my head? They have a number of other games, but 13th Age is their big series right now. It's a D20 series thing, kind of comic booky. It's a comic booky D&D they describe it as. They have Shards of the Broken Sky, like a combo kind of adventure they're doing. They have some solo games that one player, one DM. They have the Gumshoe system that they're doing some stuff for, including like a vampire one. A Cthulhu Confidential, which is a noir Cthulhu game that they're working on.
Right.
The Yellow King RPG, which is based upon the Yellow King is also a character that I know gets kind of thrown in with like Cthulhu and Lovecraftian stuff, but I think he's his own series because I think the Yellow King shows up in like Call of Cthulhu or Arkham Horror and stuff like that. No, or Arkham Horror is really what I'm saying. So they're doing, and they've also got a Gumshoe fantasy system. So they're working on a lot of stuff with their entire things. A lot of neat things. We stopped by Anvil 8 Games. They have the Ethereum RPG. They have their final faction for Ethereum in general. Their actual like board game coming out in March. They kind of have like, they're trying to play out that stuff and finish up what they've got in Ethereum before kind of hitting into what's coming next. A lot of it, they have some things that they're talking about and thinking about, but that's what they want to do. They're working on their Ethereum RPG and then finishing their final faction for the Ethereum board game / kind of miniatures game. We stopped by Rock Banner Games as I take a drink.
No drink for you.
Too bad. Alder Quest is in the first quarter of the next year. It's got like a lot. It's got like a match 3 economy, familiar elements, kind of an action heroes that are there. They summon minions, move around the board. They also have Lawyer Up, which is interesting because it's like a lawyer. It's a lawyer game where you try to like take care of various cases. It comes with a number of cases, plus you can get cases and expansions. So I feel like this is like, it might have less replayability, but at least like the expansions and the original book come with multiple things. So it's sort of like you're getting a better bang for your buck than something like Cough Cough Time Stories Cough Cough, which is 1 adventure per box. Yeah. I don't mind them if I know what I'm getting into and they are not too expensive for a fairly one-time use. These might be more than once. From the sounds of it, each case has its own mechanics. And
yeah, they did say they were more than once.
Yeah, they could have replayability just from the nature of their own mechanics, that like there's options to what's going on, and it basically is how you set it up will determine a little bit of how the case will play out. They said unlike
Time Stories, these are replayable. I do remember them saying that specifically,
which was great to hear about. And that's going to be second quarter for Lawyer Up. That one, as much as Alder Quest was kind of cool, Lawyer Up kind of interested me more just because it's an it's a game that feels like it could be very story-driven, very play once, but they're doing it in such a way that we could play it more than once. So,
yeah,
cool that way. We talked to Atlas Games. Oh boy. They got some Kickstarters coming out. Adventure Anthology, Feng Shui 2. Of course, Magical Kitty Saves the Day. Kickstarter's already done. They're going to be working on that. They got a couple things in the works that we're kind of like talking about. They're being very game producery currently. Some dice, like Dice Manor. A lot of cool things that you kind of talk about, and hopefully in March we can sit down with them a little bit more and go in a little more.
Yeah. Go into depth some more.
Yep. We talked to Free League Publishing. They're doing the Alien RPG, which is officially out now. They're doing it in spring, so that's the Alien, Alien movie, Aliens movie. They also said for springish they've got Viscend, a Nordic horror game, where it's doing mythic creatures of Norse mythology. And they have a Tales from the Loop show on Amazon Prime.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, that's going to be coming out. Not yet, but it's going to be.
There's a lot of people that are working on kind of weird show things and things like that. For a lot, I guess the only thing I can think of is because of things like Stranger Things and its popularity with D&D, as other people are trying stuff too. But Tales from the Loop is a very interesting, kind of sci-fi weird show kind of thing. So I can understand it being very interesting. We, of course, talked with Adventure Away. That was a very interesting group to talk with.
Yes. We saw them in there, and I looked at them a little bit. I'm like, this sounds really cool, and they're not horribly far away from us.
Yeah.
So they're a D&D B&B.
Yep.
And they have two locations. They have a normal house, and then they have a castle that you can play, and it holds more people.
Yes.
Okay.
The castle was kind of neat looking. It's you can hold was it one more group of people? It was the normal house B&B holds 4 people, and the castle was at 6 or 8.
I thought it was 8. I think it's 8. I have their site up right now. Give me a second.
But effectively, what it is you stay for the weekend, and you can either have
12 hours of role playing.
Yeah, and
food.
Role playing and food, and you can either bring your own GM, or if you want, you can have one of them be GM.
Oh God, that's awesome! So I'm looking at their site. They have roommates for 2 nights accommodations, and there's 3 levels. One's true neutral, one's chaotic good, and one's lawful evil. True neutral is a private room with 2 twin beds. Chaotic good is a private room with a queen bed, and lawful evil is a private room with a king size bed.
It's very interesting, and it's in Maryland.
Frederick, Maryland.
Yeah.
So, I can speak.
It was what? For single person $475, for a couple $750.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a group of people,
that's for the true neutral. If you want to get bigger beds,
yeah,
price does go up for $750 for 2, or $850 for 2 for the king size.
And they plan holiday events, they're going kind of Harry Potter theme for Halloween. So
yeah.
if there's other things amongst D&D, even just for themes and stuff you're interested in, you can check it out there. So we stopped by Green Ronin Publishing. They've got things like Mutants and Masterminds. They've got their Fantasy Age, which is based on their Dragon Age source books. They've got things like Modern Age, again, it's based on the same thing. The Dragon Age Restore, they're coming up with a game characters book for Dragon Age. So if you've played any of the Dragon Age games, they'll have books where if you want to use some of those characters, you've got their stats. The Expanse, they've got their first adventure in January, and they've got their campaign guide. They've got their Blue Rose, which is a fantasy romantic kind of fiction anthology of games. Lazarus, which is based on a book. Yeah, they've got a kind of fantasy post-apocalyptic too that they're working on, which was kind of interesting sounding, where it's like a post-apocalyptic thing, except it's based in a fantasy world. So, and 5th season based on a book series too. So they're doing, which is environmental apocalypse kind of thing. So they got a lot of actual various different games that they're working on. Putting a lot of stuff out for their Age system based on their Dragon Age game. So, very interesting stuff there at Green Ronin Press. We stopped by Mage Hand Press, who showed off Dark Matter.
Yes. It's an awesome. I can do today. It's an awesome 5th edition supplement for running games in a future setting in 5e.
Yep.
It was fun to play test. They have a bunch of new races. Actually, I'm going to let you talk for a second. I'm going to go grab the book.
Yeah, so we got to talk. We got to play test it on Sunday afternoon. We got to check out a bunch of the new races, but you could play with the standard races because it's fully 5e compatible. So like we encountered races of the various things like elves and stuff in our adventures. All the classes are pretty much there, except for they have one new class in the book, plus we were using a gunslinger class, which is up in their material from other slings that they've created before, so that we were using it with the playtest. It's got full ship combat. It puts monsters and ships on this rule of 100, so you multiply anything that a player could do by 100 to get it to the level that is ship, or divide it by 100, I should say, to see how it would affect a ship. Yeah, if it's a ship going against a player, multiply it by 100. If it's a player going against a ship, divide it by 100, and then you can equal out the proper numbers. And that's how the stats work.
Yeah, well, also, normally... What the heck? Mega? It's Mega?
They call it Mega.
Yeah. Mega things can't normally target regular size things.
Yeah. We're too small.
Yeah. The new races, though, they have Amoeboid.
Amoeboid, or like...
I can speak today. Amoeboid, which are these weird kind of see-through rainbowish colored creatures.
Amoeba creatures that can kind of shape change.
Yeah. They also have the Avara.
They were the bird people that were very kind of religious.
Nautilid, which are a weird race of fish creatures that live inside these mech suits because they have to have a special liquid that they...
It's not just normal water. It's like it has to have like a certain mineral content that isn't really found except for their home planet, but their home planet had like a geological disaster, so their oceans are pretty much dried up. So sucks to be them.
Yeah, there's Near Human, which I don't think we really learned much about yet.
We didn't learn much about it.
Scathari.
Were those the ones we were playing?
Yes. Or no, yeah. I gotta double check myself. Give me a second.
No, I think we're playing...
No, the Scathari are bug people.
Oh, those are the bug people. Yeah. Yeah, those are the bug people.
Yeah. Near humans are... Let's see. Humans are not only the prevalent race, but it's a variety of near humans being subtly different traits. Okay, so basically it's human with special traits.
Okay.
There's the Vect, which are an android species.
Yeah, sentient androids.
And the Rotheran, which is what we played, which are creepy, kind of mind flare-ish creatures.
Yeah, and the thing is, we were playing ones that were broken away from the hive because we were like defective in the eyes of the hive, so we kind of gained sentience on our own.
Yeah.
So we're less nightmare-y.
And they had a gunslinger class that we tried.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other class that they're introducing is the War Mage class.
Yeah.
But they did other books too. I mean, the Dark Matter, where they have blasters where they don't add damage, they just like shoot. They've got archetypes for all the classes. They've like samples of ships, samples of mechs, and they plant that highly advanced technology is equivalent to magic. That's the way they did it. That everything is like basically like magic ramped up to 1,000,000.
Yeah, they have Gunslinger. War Mage is the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they have all the basic ones for, Alchemist, Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, there's also Craftsman. So that one you have to look at Scrapper's Guild. Druid, Fighter, Gunslinger, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warden, Warlock, War Mage, Witch, and Wizard. And they have subclasses, specialty ones for all of them. Also, I thought was interesting was for guns in the world, they do a decent amount of damage naturally, but you don't add your relative ability modifier to the damage.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting system, definitely. And it was fun to check it out and try it out. Now, the company is also putting out Taverns and Tankard, which is kind of about like some like drinking-based adventure kind of things. It's kind of location stuff. They have their Mimic book, which they make it look like a mimic, and you can open it to a page where it's like a mouth that kind of comes out. So your book is a mimic. I loved that.
I think that's hilarious, too. They're really nice people. And I also want to mention, shout out, the two people that we did the demo with also happen to be from D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
Which, that was really cool. I got to talk to them a little bit afterwards. Hopefully we'll be in touch with them. And I asked a very important question that's been on my mind for a while. And that was if they're going to be expanding the app at all or what's going on with that, because I love the tools they have on the website. I use them all the time. And I'm like, I would love if the app was more than just a place to read your PDFs that we buy from you.
Yeah.
And they are working on a separate app just for character creation and character storage.
Cool. So we did talk to the D&D Beyond people a little bit. Then we stopped by Rat Trap Productions. They got some game mats, which are really cool. Very high production game mats. They've got like a grass one, a dungeon one. They're coming out with more of them. Not All Blood Runs Red in March is a game that they're kind of... they're not going to Kickstarter that one, actually. That's a game that they're going to be coming out with. We didn't learn a lot about that. But they're also planning like ice and like maybe like an ocean water one for their game mats. So they're doing some cool things.
Oh, they do have the demo rules for Not All Blood Runs Red up their site right now.
I'm sure. We didn't hit into a lot of it when we were talking with them, other than the fact that it's not going to be one that's Kickstarted. They're not. They specifically said that. They're not.
I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about that one. Yeah. We stopped by Fun to 11. That's Epic PvP people. They've got an expansion. They might not be doing much more for it. They were kind of scheduling one, but some things were going on behind the scenes, so they might not do anything else for that.
Their new big one is Extra Politics.
Extra Politics, which they've got the Partisan Extra Credits, which is kind of based on a web series. That's an expansion to that one. And the thing is, when they sell out of those, they're sold out of them. They don't have any more. They're kind of like not planning on making more right now. Let's see here. We stopped by Game Week Games. Talked a little about them. They had the Innsmouth Kickstarter that just came out. Baltimore 94 is their next one of their kind of movie-based ones. They're kind of like movie franchise-based things. There's a few more that they're brewing post these. This will be their like 4 that they were planning on, and they actually were considering like a role-playing game too. So that's something to keep watch of. They're not people that are big on, like, talking, on the show. But if we keep in touch with them, we can learn more about what they're doing and tell you about them, kind of on the side. We talked to Kobold Press. They do a lot of 5e supplements. Their pocket tomes, they kind of come out. They've got a guide to game design, which is kind of general advice for making games. They've got their full magic book, which is like a magic spell compendium to all the 5e stuff they've put out. And I don't know if they're going to do the core stuff, but they're doing it like a big spell compendium of everything they've put out. So there's going to be like 600 spells. So it'll be a hell of a compendium, though. Definitely. They have one of the people that worked on the Tyranny of Dragons book for D&D, writing some stuff for them. Midgard's their setting for Kobold Press, just to note that they're doing some more stuff set in their own world setting that they're doing for 5e. So they're working a lot of stuff at Kobold Press, some big adventures and things that are very interesting.
Oh, and Courts of the Shadowy Fae, weren't they doing something with that?
Yes, they did mention that that's one of the ones they were working on when we were talking to them about the various games that they're putting out.
I'm just refreshing myself because I ran to their site, so I'm like, oh yeah, they remember they were talking about that, and they have handouts for on that.
Yep. We talked to Slugfest Games, the people that do Red Dragon Inn. They have their 50th character that are coming out. It's on its own.
Which is going to go, solo because they don't want people. Well, this could be technically the 50th character, or this one could be because they came out together. They're like, no, we're not having that. We're going to release just one by itself so we can say it's number 50.
Well, it's like with Munchkin, how I don't mind that a lot more Munchkins come out because they can always find new mechanics, new dynamics, new ways of doing cards, that if you layer them in their own ways, it comes up with different things. The same as Red Dragon Inn. A lot of these expansions, yes, you're probably getting bigger, like, drink decks and stuff, but the other thing is each character has their own way of doing things, their own unique mechanics, and when you mix them together, it's very interesting. So a 50th character is kind of cool. They are doing a dungeon crawler based on Red Dragon Inn. Effectively, I guess it's the dungeon that all the characters go to get loot and then come back to the inn for.
Which sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And they said, with the same kind of sense of humor and style that the Red Dragon in game is. So,
yeah,
I like that.
No, they're doing some really cool stuff. Setting some up things. Some stuff's going to be going up Kickstarter and touring. They were showing off a lot of very interesting things there. Definitely one to talk to again. We stopped by Haba.
Yes, I had a very good conversation with that.
Yes.
The representative there. She was very helpful. We tested a bunch of interesting games, and even their kids' games are designed that adults can have fun with them too. Because
they have two lines. They have their yellow box games, which are they're games that are made so a 2-year-old could play it. So those are their youngest games. And then they have their family night games, which are their ones where you're 7, 8, or 9 and up, and they go to 99 for ages. But that 100-year-old, he'll get them. He'll show them, and he can still play that game.
Well, that's when it resets back to the 2.
That's exactly mentally. So they're very interesting. They have a 12-month cycle for showing it off. We got to try out a little bit of Miyabi, which is a tile-laying game where you're kind of building a garden, where you score points based on how high you've stacked it, and you have to stack these shapes, and it has to be fully supported under it. So you kind of have to place shapes and create a bigger and bigger pile. And I think 5 is the maximum you can get too high.
Yep, and then also it scores in columns, so you can only score one column
per kind of round. Yeah.
Every round. So it's okay, I can place this here, but if I place this here, I can't place that here and that below it and score it also.
Yeah, and then there's a certain number of rounds, and at the end, you also, I remember she said that you also score depending on how many you have showing. So it's also like this combination of also trying to show as much on each of these rows too. So it's a very interesting game that way. That was a fun one to try out.
What was the cat one?
Yes.
That one was a lot of fun.
I think... Did I write the notes down somewhere else for Hava? Or it should be there. Cloaked Cats. I did.
Yes,
this was our last big meeting, and it's the last thing in the notes. We've talked through all of them, actually, pretty quickly. Cloaked Cats. That was a fun one. It was of their family game night things. The idea is there's this deck of cards that each card has a different pose, color, fur style, like striped or spotted, or an accessory that a cat could have, and you get 3 of them. And it could be that you're 3 colors, it could be that you've got 3 shapes on your fur, it could be like you've got 3 accessories, it could be you got 3 poses, it could be of one of each, of a bunch of different ones. You got 3 of anything, and it's very Guess Who-y, except you play cards that show some of these, and if one of them is in the picture that you have to put a token on it. So you could play one that has your own token, but other people might play one that tries to figure out what you have by the tokens you're laying it on.
And the thing is, when you're putting a token, you're only one token on it, so it's not a token for everything that might match you.
Yeah.
So if someone if you've already put a token out and people pretty much know that you're purple, and someone plays a purple with something else you have, you're putting a token on there, but they're not sure if you're putting a token on there because you're purple, or maybe it also matches something else.
And if you manage to guess someone else correctly, you get a token. If you fail your guess, they get one of your tokens. And at the end, the number of cards you have hidden plus the number of tokens you have gets your score. And it ends when one person's fully revealed, which I fully revealed Tiffany? It was Tiffany. So, and then I think...
She was a rainbow cat.
She was Rainbow Cat. And because I managed to get her guess, I think I won by like 1 point. It wasn't a big difference.
No, it was a close game.
That's the kind of game you can play a bunch of rounds of very easily, though, because it's a lot of guessing and getting right, and hopefully getting right, and then deduction, because you can only make a guess on your turn, and you can only make one guess. So it's like the first round, I realized, like, on my turn, I had enough information. I probably could have guessed something of hers, but I didn't. And I missed that kind of thing, It's like, you have to make inferences very quickly.
You're right, but you're also worried because it's like, wrong.
Give them up points,
token.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're also another German company that has been around for a long time and is less time in the U.S., but is being more... Dragon's Breath was the other one, which they have an expansion. Yes. The Hatchling, I think, is the expansion.
Yeah, it was something like that. Let me see. I'm on their site.
But the one that we played was all about collecting gems to match little cards you have, and you pull these rings off. And the thing is, you have to keep this dragon egg balanced on there without losing it. But when you pull the rings off, the little gems fall out. So it's kind of all about keeping things balanced. It was very interesting for kind of pulling it apart.
The first one has that too, but the second one adds the egg into it.
Okay. So the second one is the egg. So Dragon's Breath is just the pile. The egg one is the hatchling, which is kind of the expansion. And the idea is that each of us would collect it, and she was playing the person that was in charge of the egg, and so she would pull off... Dragon. Yeah, the Mama Dragon. She pulled off 2 of the gems that we might need to try to stop us from scoring them. So it was very interesting. And only if you complete something do you score it at the end of the round. So you might have 3 cards, and you have to figure out which one you want to try to complete. Because if you don't complete any, you don't score anything. Or if you partially complete them, you still don't score. You have to complete them fully.
Right.
So.
Yeah, the second one, you do eventually take turns going around being Mama Dragon. And it's built to teach kids the aspect of, not just paying attention to what you're doing, but paying attention to what other players are doing. Because when you're the Mama Dragon, you're trying to stop people from completing their stuff.
Yeah, and their yellow box plus their family fun night. Well, their yellow box is supposed to be introducing game mechanics that are popular game mechanics, things like resource management, tile laying, worker placement, to younger children. And making them learn about that with very simple games. And then when they get to the family fun night, the family game night, they know those mechanics.
Like she said, it's like growing a gamer.
Yeah. So I liked their company too. Both Amigo and Hoppa were really nice people to talk to. I'm very interested in their games because of like, again, I liked their family fun feel they had for those.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so yeah, that was the majority of what we spent at PAX Unplugged.
I would like to give a few minor shout outs. I did buy a charity box, which you get 4 random games.
Yeah.
And we had tried 3 of them so far. We tried, what was it? There's an axe in my head.
Oh my God, there's an axe in my head, which is a weird diplomacy game, kind of.
1920s League of Nations. There's a axe juggling troupe that Finland hired.
It was Switzerland.
Swiss hired. I'm sorry, Swiss hired. That
and they go crazy
and start tossing axes into people's heads.
Yep.
And you're still trying to negotiate deals while dodging axes
and running away. Yeah, it's like
it's a weird game, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the chairman's dead, and basically you pass the gavel around and try to pass as many deals to get the best deals before you escape the room and end the session. We're taking advantage of the confusion.
Then there was Troll, which is an interesting game. Troll Hunt. Yeah, there was that's an interesting game. You're using magic lamps and mirrors and prisms to try to turn trolls into stone by hitting them with beams of light.
And is the troll?
There was Goblin Hunt, Goblin Hunter.
Goblin Hunter. Yeah, that was the.
That one's a press your luck kind of game.
Yeah.
You're trying to collect as many goblins, capture as many goblins as possible without killing yourself.
And you can take 3 wounds before you're driven back. And if you take 3 wounds, you lose your goblins. Yeah. So, and each character has their own abilities. Like mine was, once per turn I could draw 3 cards and keep 2 of them. So
yeah, I could ignore because you draw 2 cards at a time and going through the goblin deck. I could ignore 2 cards and redraw.
Mm-hmm.
So if I got 2 ones that were just wounds, I could be like, nope, don't want those. Redraw. Oh, that's better.
And our other friend ignored the wound of the first one she drew. The first wound she drew.
First wound they got, they just ignored. So they basically could take 4 wounds.
Yeah. So it was a lot of interesting mechanics. I got really lucky. There was towards the end there, you were catching up to me because my luck kind of ran out. But those first couple of rounds,
you were really way ahead. You were up to like 16 points when we were both sitting in the first row.
Yeah. Now, again, you managed to catch up pretty well because I was not getting a lot of the same luck because you reshuffle, kind of deal out every time. But at the end there, I did get a hand that I just got enough at because I only needed like 4 at the end there. It wasn't a big hand to get, so it was the unfortunate thing that like I got delayed and it gave you a chance to catch up, but like there was some better luck on my side because it is a very, very luck heavy game.
Yeah,
with a little bit of strategy.
But it's also really simple too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing I want to mention is I got to play last night with my fiance, Little Circuses.
Okay.
Which is a game I picked up at our local game store. And it's similar to Unfair, which we've done on the channel, but different enough that it is its own unique game. So you're still trying to build things, and then you're moving a spotlight around to the different things you've built. And you're trying to gain fame from it. So you're trying to get the more famous your circus is, the better, because you're competing with your other siblings. And it's a 1 to 7 player game. So I definitely want to play some more of that. Hana and I ended up actually tying. So that was very interesting. She got ahead of me, and then final scores. There's 3 things that you look for. 1, if you have any unbuilt stuff in your hand. She had none. I had 1, and which gave me 1 extra point, which put me right on top of her. I'm like, we tied. So, those are the things I wanted to shout out. Just mention that we did get some actual gameplay in as well.
So cool. And let's see here. That's pretty much all we did at PAX Unplugged. That was our big thing. RPG wise, like for other stuff, because we'll just move into our transition of our week in gaming, because we'll dive into a little bit of a better, deeper discussion on all the things we have to review at another show, just because this has been our big like PAX Unplugged dump of everything that we encountered and all the interviews we had and all the people we talked to and all the things we saw, because we saw a lot. And I'm glad we actually got through it pretty reasonable amount of time too. So, yeah, I had a Records of Evil, where they're exploring the ruins of their old cult headquarters to get some secrets there. Fun so far. They they got beat up by giant centipedes, who were CR 1/4 to their level 2. Well, they might have been level 3 even, and they still got the shit beat out of them by by centipedes. And they've befriended desert cats. Fun days. And then we had Grinding Gears 2 weeks ago, and so this week we're going to have the next one, because we didn't talk about it next week anyway. And I think we had a Legacies of Kain, where they're starting an auction. So that's fun. And probably going to be meeting a bunch of old friends and enemies from the past sessions at said auction. So... and Grinding Gears, we kind of went on like a little fetch quest while Tiff was away. So, just to keep things simple for what's going on.
Yeah, and I talked about all the games that I played in the last week. So
yeah. So I think that's about it for today. Yeah, this was all about PAX Unplugged and talking about what we encountered there today. The things that I had to talk about, one of them was, hey, the Alien RPG came out. We talked about that a little bit. I mean, that was one of the 3 things I found that were like, these would be the most interesting things to talk about. Again, this was one of those weeks I probably could have thrown together like 5 topics, but 2 of them would have been like, they're topics, they're interesting, I found them. They're not great, but they're interesting. 3 that really stood out. So, like there was also like a D&D adventure that was out too. So anyway, we talked enough. Hey, thanks for joining me, Joe. It was a fun one. Remember, of course, to check out all the links. We are at discussingtabletop@yahoo.com. Our Twitter is below us. Each of us, you can direct message us or just add us. My Discord is available for either joining as a Discord, where you can find my Discord ID and message me directly, or just put something up on the Discord if you don't mind other people seeing what your question is. Or on the comments of the video when it goes up on YouTube, or here when it's live on Twitch. You can also throw it up in the comments too while we're here. A lot of ways to message us for questions, anything you want to say about anything like that. And we'll be back tomorrow for Grinding Gears. And I am unsure of the schedule for the next Discussing Tabletop. RPGs, I think we have stuff set up for Tuesday. I'm not sure if you have both games or one game for Legacies and Records. I should be doing some more 7 days throughout the week. And we did have our first meeting and discussion for the new Thursday night game. So that should be coming. Yes. I'm hoping by early 2020 we should have the first session.
Agreed.
I'm going to see the schedule for Thursdays and when they work effectively and how many I would have to skip.
Right.
I think there's literally just one Thursday in January I have to worry about. And as long as I get people to get their characters done, we'll see. We'll play it by ear.
Okay.
Anyway, and I think next week Discussing Tabletop is probably going to be canceled. Yeah, because you're going to be busy, and
Yeah, unfortunately, I have some moving to do.
Yeah, and I very well might be involved with you. So,
right.
If something comes up that I can't be involved with him, and somehow I could have the show with a special guest, I will let people know, but I have doubts on both of those things. So, anyway, have a good day, rest of your weekend, everybody. Hopefully see you tomorrow, and bye.
Bye.